Next subunit is 2.9, internal and external assessments. So a little bit of internal assessment first, as we have discussed in the previous lectures. So internal assessments are in fact ongoing, regular monitoring of the internal audit department, but this is done internally. There is no external party involved. So remember, internal assessments are ongoing monitoring of the internal audit department, and it's a periodic self-assessment. Means there is no third party involved, means the employees within the internal audit department. So what are the ways we can assess the quality of internal audit department internally? First is we assess that to what extent the supervision is given to the subordinates, especially the newly recruits, because supervision is a very fundamental element of ensuring quality, because subordinates' work must be supervised in order to ensure quality. So engagement supervision is available to what extent? Then many organizations, in order to assess the quality, would have developed checklists. So do the internal audit department employees and the processes use checklists and procedures while conducting the audit? Checklist approach at least gives the thoroughness of the audit, that all the areas that should have been checked was checked. So checklists and procedures, are they used in the audit? So if the internal audit department extensively uses checklists and they have set procedures, it means it's a good quality system in place in the internal audit department. Then one good way to assess the quality of internal audit department is to have feedback from the audit customers, mean other stakeholders. To what extent you can ask the audit client that to what extent the quality work has been provided. This is also a good way to assess the quality of the work performed. And then there is one good way, that for example 3 team members in the audit department conducted the audit of warehousing. The quality of this engagement can be independently assessed via peer review by 2 or 3 separate individuals who are not involved in this engagement. So these 3 will give an assessment of the quality of the work performed at the warehouse. So this is called the selective peer review by staff not involved in the respective audits. Like audit of the warehousing, to what extent was quality ensured, it could be assessed by someone within the department but not involved in this engagement. Then one other way is to assess the project budgets, money and time, to what extent the work was completed within the budgets of money and the monetary and the time constraints. Then what are the timekeeping systems? How do we track the time spent on various assignments of subordinates, audit managers and these audit supervisors? That's very important. And to what extent audit plan, will read about that in detail, to what extent audit plan was complied with and completed within time. So any staff who is conducting such assessments within the internal audit department, they report to the chief audit executive, remember, and then chief audit executive reports to the higher up. So that's important to remember that the peer review conducted by such staff is reported to the chief audit executive, and then chief audit executive, the head of internal audit department, will report this to the board of directors at least annually. Then finally we have external assessments. They are more important. External assessment standards say must be conducted at least once in every 5 years by external qualified independent team, because you cannot be a good judge of yourself. You can be judged better by others. So that's why the internal audit department effectiveness and efficiency can better be gauged by external qualified independent teams. They will provide independent view. And this is not just an audit of or assessment of a single work or a single engagement. In fact, when the external assessors or the external qualified quality assurance staff or the team is appointed or hired, they cover complete work performed by the internal audit department, not just the audit, not just the assessment. So remember, the external assessors, they will cover the complete spectrum of audit and consulting work. So what is actually the work they perform? Let us have a brief overview. The scope of their work they cover includes, first of all, to what extent the internal audit department conform or follow the DCS, that is definition of internal auditing, code of ethics, and S stands for the standards. So to what extent the internal audit department follows the definition of internal auditing, the code of ethics, and finally the standards. To what extent the internal audit department follows the charter, we have read much about in detail. To what extent the internal audit department follows the plans, the policies, the procedures, and the practices, or any other applicable regulatory or legislative requirements. So these are the criteria through which the external assessor assesses the quality of internal audit department, the conformance or following of DCS, the charter, the plans, policies, procedure, and practices. We have done all these in the previous lectures, and any applicable regulatory and legislative requirements. Expectations from internal audit activity. What are the expectations? So these first elements have been covered, that the internal audit department comply with all these that have been listed. This is the first element under this coverage. Second element, that what are the expectations from the internal audit activity within the company? What do audit clients expect from us as internal auditors? What kind of service are they expecting? Is there any expectation gap? Does the CFO wants me to help him in the finalizing accounts? Again, if this is their expectation, then again this goes against the standards. So what are the expectations from the internal audit activity by the management? And what type of skill, knowledge, experience is available within the internal audit department? These are all assessed by an external evaluator. Mix of knowledge within the internal audit department, the mix of experience and discipline, so that overall the spectrum of knowledge and experience available should be sufficient to meet the needs of the company in which the internal audit department is being done. And then finally, whether or not the internal audit department adds value and improves the processes. Finally, has the internal audit department been able to improve the processes of the company? Was it able to improve the activities, and did it actually add value to the processes? So that ends your unit 2 completely.